You hear the word agile thrown around all the time, right? But what does it actually mean when things get tough? Today, we're going to cut through all the buzzwords and see how these agile ideas become real world actions. We're going from the textbook straight into the trenches.
So, have you ever wondered about this? You've got two teams, right? Both are smart, both are totally motivated, but one is just shipping awesome stuff, delighting their users, and actually moving the needle. Meanwhile, the other team feels like it's trapped in this endless cycle of planning meetings and scope creep. The difference, you guys, isn't talent. It's all about how they handle the day-to-day realities of building something.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll get the basics right with the Agile Foundation. Then we'll zoom out to the big picture with steering the product. After that, we're jumping right into the thick of it with navigating the sprint. And finally, we'll see how it all comes together in delivering real value. All right, first up, the Agile Foundation. Before anyone writes a single line of code or even opens a design file, the most successful teams do something that sounds simple but is actually super profound. They agree on the rules of the game. And specifically, they all agree on what it really means to be done. This right here is the definition of done, or what you'll hear called the DoD. Honestly, just think of it as the team's shared promise for what quality looks like. It's not just some boring checklist. It's a real commitment. It makes sure that when a developer says a feature is done, everybody on the team knows exactly what that means. It's tested, it's secure, it's documented, and it is ready for prime time.
And here's the thing. A good DoD is a living document. It's not set in stone. Check out this example. So the company has its standard rules, right? Security checks, testing, the usual. But this team, they decided to add a whole new layer for accessibility. They're taking real ownership of quality and making it fit the specific needs of their users. That's huge. Okay, so once you know what done looks like, the next massive challenge is figuring out what to even build in the first place. And that brings us to steering the product. In a world with a million requests and priorities that shift every 5 minutes, how do you focus on what really, truly matters?
This is where a fantastic product owner really shines. They don't just guess or go with their gut. They order the backlog using real-world business drivers. They are constantly asking questions like, what's the cost if we don't build this right now? How many of our users will this actually help? Is there a hard market deadline we absolutely can't miss? This turns a simple to-do list into a powerful strategic roadmap.
And here's a perfect example of why that matters so much. The world doesn't just pause for your 2-week sprint, right? In this case, bam, a new regulation drops out of nowhere. But because the product owner is actively managing that backlog based on what's critical, they can react in an instant. They slot that compliance item right at the top, making sure the business stays safe and sound.
Now this is where the product owner earns their keep. They are the ultimate guardian of value. I mean, when a senior manager asks for something, it's so tempting to just say, yes, of course. But a great PO is empowered to have a real, strategic conversation. They explain why other items are more important for the product's goals right now. They're basically protecting the team from distractions.
And look, this isn't happening in some isolated bubble. The best ideas almost always come from the folks on the front lines. A smart PO is constantly talking with teams like marketing and customer support, and they're feeding those fresh insights and trends right back into the product backlog. This is what keeps the team working on what's most relevant today, not 3 months ago.
Okay, so the foundation is solid, the priorities are clear, now it's time. We enter the sprint. And this is where even the best laid plans smash right into reality. This is where a team's agility gets put to the ultimate test by all those little surprises that pop up. Here we go, a classic problem. The team starts working and realizes a task is way bigger than anyone thought. The old school death march approach, that's option A, is to just force everything in. But that leads to burnout and crappy work. The agile way, option B, is to talk and renegotiate. The team works with the product owner to drop a less important item to make sure they can still hit their main sprint goal. Remember, the goal is always more important than any single task.
But wait, what happens if the PO is stuck in meetings all day? Does everything just grind to a halt? No way, not for an empowered team. Let's walk through it. First, they hit a blocker. Instead of just stopping, they use that sprint goal as their North Star to figure out the best way forward. Then they just keep working and sync up with the PO later to let them know. That kind of autonomy is what creates real, unstoppable momentum.
But there's this other, sneakier obstacle. We call it technical debt. And this timeline,
It tells a painful but very common story. What should have been a simple, easy feature gets totally derailed on day 2 by some old, messy spaghetti code. The team then spends a whole week just fixing other bugs that keep popping up. That shortcut someone took 6 months ago, well, it's costing them big time, right now.
And what does that actually mean? Well, here's the number. That simple feature took 3 times longer than it should have. Technical debt isn't just some abstract thing for engineers to worry about. It's a real, measurable drag on your product's success. It literally slows everything down. All right, this brings us to the whole point of doing any of this in the first place. All this work, the planning, the prioritizing, the sprinting, it's all for nothing if we aren't delivering actual value. So, how do we measure our success? And more importantly, learn from the people who actually use our stuff. Let's look at this fintech team. They rolled out a new biometric login feature, but only to about 5% of their users. And the result? Just look at this chart. The first bar on the left is support calls before the feature. The bar on the right is support calls after. I mean, look at that difference. It's huge. This tiny, fast experiment proved the feature's value with cold, hard data. And value can be measured in a lot of different ways. It isn't always about saving money. For this mobile app team, success was all about engagement. By pushing out small updates every 2 weeks, they could see a direct link to how long people were actually spending in the app. That session time just kept climbing, which told them they were on the right track. So let's wrap this all up. What are the big things to take away? First, that calendar icon. Planning is not a one-time thing. It's continuous. Second, the trophy. The team's shared goal always wins over any single task. Third, those rockets. Small, frequent releases are your fastest way to learn. And finally, that tangled price tag. Trust me, technical debt will always send you the bill, and it's always higher than you think. So as we wrap this up, I want you to think about something. As you were listening, which one of these scenarios, that urgent request from a manager, the tech debt nightmare, the mid-sprint negotiation, which one felt the most familiar to you? And more importantly, what's one tiny, small change you or your team could try tomorrow to bring just a little more of this real-world agility into your work? Thanks for joining me.